Hello, beautiful people. How are y'all feeling today? I hope you guys are feeling magical. Welcome to my channel. Today we are going to be talking through the full moon in Cancer, and you guys, it is going to be such an emotionally powerful moon. Are you guys ready? Let's dive right in. The full moon in Cancer is commencing on December 29th to the 30th, depending on where you are in the world. And this full moon in Cancer is opposing the sun in Capricorn. So here we are working with the Cancer-Capricorn axis. The moon is in its home sign of Cancer. So with Cancer, we are working with the mother archetype, right? So these are all things that involve the family, the internal emotional environment, the divine feminine energies, the mother archetype, and how we mother ourselves internally and caretake ourselves and nurture ourselves. And on the other side of the axis, we have Capricorn. So this is very much embodying structure, discipline, and is associated with Father Time. We had two cards that Spirit wanted to really get us to pay attention to. We have the Fool and the Four of Wands. With Capricorn, we are also working with the divine masculine archetype and the father archetype. So how do we self-father? How are we parenting ourselves in that way? And which ways do we bring ourselves structure and discipline? So it is very much the conversation between Mother Moon and Father Time. And there's not a whole lot going on in Capricorn right now. We had Saturn and Jupiter recently move into Aquarius, Seven of Pentacles, Four of Pentacles, and Five of Wands. All right. We do have some rather friction-y, challenging energies going on. Don't worry, we're gonna talk about this and we're gonna talk everything through. So the only outer planet that is still left in Capricorn right now is Pluto. So what we're working with here is very much the shadow world and death and rebirth, right? So aside from Sun and Pluto in Capricorn, Capricorn is fairly quiet right now. So here we're really going to be focusing on self-mothering with the moon in Cancer. How do we nurture ourselves? How are we parenting our own inner child? Are we taking care of our bodies? Are we taking care of this beautiful physical vessel that we've all been gifted with? Are we setting firm boundaries for ourselves? Are we saying no when we really mean no and only saying yes when we mean yes? How are we nurturing ourselves emotionally? How are we caretaking that beautiful internal environment? Are we making the challenging choices every day that are leading to our benefit, that are really nourishing our spiritual, mental, emotional well-being? And are we nourishing our physical bodies? Are we really taking care of our vessels, right? These are all very mothering qualities. How do we nourish these beautiful parts of ourselves? And another aspect that I do want to touch on briefly is the moon is sextiling Uranus and Black Moon Lilith in Taurus. So guys, this is huge. Black Moon Lilith is representing the wild, the free, the dark feminine, right? This is something, whether you are male, female, somewhere in between, this is something that we all have within us. We all have divine masculine and divine feminine energies within us. And the dark, wild feminine, right? She is really rising into her power right now. We are seeing this on a huge collective level within humanity. So what are the ways that you have kind of caged yourself, right? How can you unleash that wild side, that wild, dark feminine energy, right? When we think of feminine energy, sometimes we only think about the light aspects of the feminine, really nourishing, really caring, feeling, being in the body, very expressive, emotive, playful, sensual. And there is this dark energy to the feminine that is equally as beautiful, equally as powerful as the light side, right? How do we enact our righteous anger? How do we embody this wildfire that lives within each of us? Especially when Uranus in Taurus is also joining the conversation. This is the planet of revolution. Uranus being the ruling planet for the sign of Aquarius, we are really talking about how do we shake this up? How do we shake up our mental concept of what the feminine energy is? How do we bring this feminine energy into the rising and into this beautiful revolution and really begin to embody that, whether you identify as a man or a woman, really tapping in to that feminine power, that creative, destructive flow. And this is a conversation that I've been noticing a lot in my personal life as well, with how the feminine has been caged, right? How can we begin to unleash and take off these layers of restriction and control and conformity that have kind of been caked on by the patriarchal societies that we live in? How can we unleash that raw, unbridled, mysterious feminine magic that we all have living within our hearts? So many of us are awakening to the fact that we as humans have been caged. We have been tamed. We have been domesticated. We've lost this wild side of ourselves, that are this primal, instinctual, intuitive side that we all have, that lives within us. Maybe she's sleeping right now, and maybe that's okay. Allow her to gently, or rudely, if you're some of us that are getting really jolted by the energies that are coming in from the great conjunction of Saturn and Jupiter having moved into Aquarius. So whether this is a gentle or rude awakening, allow this side of yourselves to really open. All right, you guys, without further ado, let's get right into this reading here. We are starting off the conversation with the Fool, right? The Fool's journey, symbolizing beautiful new beginnings, expansion and adventure, and approaching things from a curious beginner's mindset. What new beginnings are we looking to create? Right? This is the beginning of the age of Aquarius. We are moving into a new way of being, a new way of connection with community, a new way of relating to others, of determining what feels nourishing and recharging and vitalizing for us personally. How do we want to show up in the world in a new way? The deconstruction of the old is continuing to happen, but why? It is because we are lighting the way for a new wave of consciousness that is coming in for humanity and awakening to this part of ourselves. The next card that came out today was the Four of Wands. Here we are looking at structure. What structures are we looking to create for ourselves? So this is kind of the conversation of Capricorn here. Stability, structure, discipline, all these things. What are we building in the world? How are we creating that within ourselves? This is also part of the mothering that we are doing for ourselves. How are we keeping ourselves nourished? How are we keeping ourselves safe? Whether that's physically, energetically, emotionally, spiritually. How are we building the foundation for the next chapter of our lives? The Suit of Wands being tied to the element of fire. So here we are working with divine inspiration, creativity, the way in which we show up in the world, how we move in the world. And this all starts internally, right? So the conversation of Moon in her home sign of Cancer is very much inviting us to look at these parts within ourselves, to really nourish and fertilize and water our internal landscape. The next card we are being presented with is the Seven of Pentacles. So the Seven of Pentacles is very much having that conversation of every full moon, right? What is it that we are releasing? The Seven of Pentacles shows us that we have been working towards something and maybe it is not paying off as we want it to. Maybe we're becoming frustrated with the work that we're putting in and we're not immediately seeing the fruits of our labor. Be patient. take your time. The Suit of Pentacles is tied to the element of earth. So this is very slow moving energy, very steady energy, right? It is about the everyday choices that we make to build what it is that we are trying to create. And sometimes this means learning to let go of the things that are no longer serving us, learning to release our attachment to the outcome. Are we doing things for the joy of doing them? Are we doing them because they are fulfilling to us? Or are we doing them to achieve some kind of external result or reward or validation? What is driving what we do in the external world? What is your why? What is your purpose? All these questions are things that are coming up for the collective right now. Are we building something that we are proud of, something that is going to nourish and fulfill us? Or are we building aimlessly for some kind of external result because it is a society mandated narrative that we are trying to perpetuate to fit into or to be this kind of acceptable member of society, right? Are these things helping our growth? Are these things in alignment with us spiritually and who we truly are? Not the mask that we wear around in everyday life, not the face that we show on social media. None of these things. Who are we on the deepest, most personal level? We are being invited to really explore that at this time. The next card we are presented with is the Four of Pentacles. So the numerology here is quite interesting. This is the second four that we are being presented with, four being the number of stability and structure and security. With the Four of Pentacles, here we are looking at this man and he is kind of keeping himself a little bit small. The Four of Pentacles is inviting us to look at the ways in which we are playing it small still and how we want to choose to open and expand to experience all realm of possibility. Maybe things that we didn't think were previously possible, right? And really looking at that narrative of what we're allowed and not allowed to do. In what ways are we dimming our light? In what ways are we keeping ourselves small in order to feel safe in some way? If we are dimming our light in order to play it safe, in order to not ruffle any feathers or rock the boat any, really ask yourselves where this comes from. What is the deep-rooted fear there? What would it mean if you were to turn up that brightness on your light, baby? What is so scary about allowing yourself to shine, about allowing yourself to really unleash that wild, creative side of yourself? What would that mean for you? What would that look like for you? If we can work through the things that are keeping us trapped, keeping us small, and those things often come from what our subconscious programming is. If we can learn to rewrite those narratives and unblock those barriers, we can begin to overcome these fears. And often this is a fear of, well, if I shine too brightly, it's still not going to be good enough, or I'm going to be too much, or this will mean that I'm bad or not good in some way, or it'll mean that I get left behind, I'll be rejected, I'll be abandoned. Really taking a look at this part of ourselves during this time is a huge part of our healing path right now. This moon is a wildly emotional full moon. Looking at the stuff that we need to release and to let go of for this last moon of such a pivotal year is going to be key in how we choose to show up to the next leg of our journey. From now until 2024, we are receiving this huge influx of galactic energy. So really do yourself a favor and get in tune, get in alignment, really get grounded with what we are working with right now. If you are experiencing strong emotions during this time, that is okay. Honor that. Part of the Cancerian energy is really honoring and holding these emotional parts of ourselves, loving these parts of ourselves, integrating the darkness along with the light, holding all of it as okay, and having loving kindness and compassion for all these diverse, beautiful aspects within yourself. And the last card for today's reading is the Five of Swords. So here we are looking at the ways in which we feel we are being left behind. How do we feel like we're not fitting in? How do we feel like we are meant to stand out? The Five of Swords is often depicting the ways in which we feel like an imposter, right? So this imposter syndrome, that little voice in your mind that is saying you're not good enough, or you're not this enough, or you're too much of this, right? And this fear that we are getting away with something and that we're going to be found out and then left behind or abandoned in some way. So with becoming our most authentic selves and with learning to set those boundaries, with learning to really speak from a heart-centered space and express our truth, this may mean that there's going to be conflict that arises. And this may mean that your space, your internal and external space is going to open up because people are no longer going to be resonating with you. And that is okay. When we choose to vibrate higher, when we choose to elevate our frequency into the frequencies of love, of joy, of expansion, excitement, exuberance, all these beautiful things, this is going to mean that not everyone is going to want to join us at our table, and that is okay. Allow them to leave and wish them well with grace and with peace. That way we can open up this table, this beautiful energetic space to those who are in alignment with this. And this will lead to higher levels of connection, community, and redefining what family, what connection means to us. Whew, you guys, this has been such a powerful reading. Feeling very emotional, very open today, and very vulnerable as well. And if you are feeling the same, know that it is okay. It is okay to be human, to be wild, to be free. It is okay to express this feminine part of yourself. It does not make you weak. It does not make you any less than. It does not make you too much. All that you are is beautiful. I'm going to close out this reading with one final card from my Moonology Oracle deck. So let's see what Spirit has in store for us today. All right. So we have North Node, step out of your comfort zone. Ooh, full body goosebumps, guys. All right, so Spirit is really loving us today and really with us today. The North Node has to do with our purpose, our path in this current incarnation, your current human form. The North Node is what is our greatest soul learning during this chapter of our soul's experience. So this human experience, what is your dharma? What is your purpose? What is driving you? And how do you discover these things? Don't worry if you feel a little lost right now. It's okay. It is a chaotic time. However, in order to really align yourself and discover what your calling is, we need to step out of the comfort of what is known, of what is familiar and what is safe. We need to venture out into the unexplored territory. And in doing so, we expand our minds, we expand our awareness, we rise into new levels of consciousness. And we don't do this by playing it safe. We don't do this by following the status quo and what is acceptable, right? We do this by acting out of a place of truth and integrity to our own personal beliefs and values. And this is gonna be a little bit scary. It's gonna feel a little shaky at times. We're like this baby that is still just learning how to walk, right? And sometimes we're gonna stumble and we're going to fall, and that is okay. Learn to pick yourselves up, dust yourself off, and get right back out there. Get into that unexplored territory so that you can discover what it is that makes your heart sing, what it is that makes your spirit soar, what brings you joy, what brings you fulfillment, what brings you purpose and passion. This North Node card in conjunction with the Fool, right, is really showing us how we are stepping out into a new direction of our lives, how we are shifting our journey, how we are diverging from the path that we've always known and perhaps even thought that we were meant to be on. This is a time of major shift, of major change, and it's okay if you fail. We have to be willing to lose sight of the shore in the pursuit of our greater joy, of our greater learning and growth. We have to be unafraid to get a little lost, to get a little confused, right? And to really kind of just wander until we find our way. It is okay to have this exploratory time in your lives. It is okay to allow this raw, primal, wild side of yourself to become unleashed, because we root ourselves in the stability of our internal landscape, right? We cultivate this security and safety within ourselves by nourishing ourselves, by mothering ourselves. Thank you so much for joining me today. I hope this reading served you well. If it did, don't be afraid to hit that like button, smash that subscribe. If you want to dive a little deeper, you can book a reading with me. Hit me up on Instagram, DM me at lotuscoaching13. I am still offering pay what you can coaching sessions as well. Get at me on Instagram at lotuscoaching13 and have a beautiful rest of your day.